All right. Set my timer so I don't run over. So you'll notice there's captions. PowerPoint has an auto captioning feature, so I'm going to try it out. And hopefully it doesn't write anything obscene while I'm talking. So here we go. Thanks for having me. I'm here to talk about SwiftCurrent. It's a WWT library for managing complex workflows in Swift. But first, I should introduce myself. My name is Richard Gist. My pronouns are he, him, his. I work at WWT as a senior software engineer for the Application Services Division. And my current project is being the technical lead on SwiftCurrent. You can find me at GitHub, Richard-Gist, or on Medium at Richard.Gist, or on LinkedIn at Richard Gist. Kind of a theme going on there. Let's just take a quick high-level view of what is SwiftCurrent. So SwiftCurrent is an open source library for managing complex workflows. In SwiftCurrent, workflows are a sequence of operations, usually displaying views in an application. And so the workflow describes the sequence of views and manages which view should come next. And then your views are responsible for performing necessary tasks before proceeding forward in the workflow, something like processing user input. Hi, Elliot. Sorry, I got started already. So all you missed is who I am and just this quick high level of what is SwiftCurrent. Let me, whoa, what things are flying on my screen. 1 second. So then we also have built-in support for SwiftUI app routing, also UIKit app routing. We run on iOS, macOS, tvOS, and watchOS. You can get it through Swift Package Manager, CocoaPods, or you can just download the binaries directly from the release page. We try to make it as easy for you to consume as possible. Get it in your app, try it out. So talk is easy, well, relatively easy. I'm going to try to demo. So we're just gonna use an existing SwiftUI app that's already built using SwiftCurrent, and we're gonna add a new feature to it. We're gonna add a login screen that shows up when you select something that requires authentication. Basically, we're gonna gate one feature, maybe two. If you've already gone to our GitHub page, the video is the app is basically what I'm going to go through, is doing what that video did. But I'm just going to try to do it live and not doing Command Z trickery like I did in the video to make it go faster. So let me stop presenting that. Jump over here. Everyone seeing my Xcode? Cool. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and build and run the project. You can see here that our app consists of a scene. Don't worry about the if else, that's for testing purposes. Really what it comes down to is we right away start with SwiftCurrent. We launch a workflow here, and that workflow consists of a SwiftCurrent onboarding screen, which is on my simulator right now. And then after that, we are followed up with the content view. The onboarding screen just talks about our design philosophy, things our library helps you do, where you can use it, and then other features enabled by the library. This is the sample app in the example app in the project. So if you just clone the repo and try to launch SwiftUI example, you'll get right into the screen. All right. So when I hit check it out, it's going to proceed to the next screen in the view, which is content view. And then from here, I'm going to switch over and start using the preview canvas for SwiftUI. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop the simulator. We'll dive into content view. So content view, to be used in a workflow, has to be flow representable. And in order to make content view conform to flow representable, all it needed was this one thing here, weak var workflow pointer, which is a optional any flow representable. And from there, I could then just drop it right into my workflow. We are tinkering with trying to get rid of this. So you don't even have to declare this, but right now you do, at least in SwiftUI. Otherwise, the view is pretty straightforward. It's just a body with a tab view, but each tab is a workflow in itself. So if I go down here to the third tab, which is what we're starting on here, profile, that's this workflow here. And it consists of a profile feature onboarding view. And when you proceed from there, you get to a profile feature view. And so this is the feature. So let's go ahead and add a login gate. I've already made the login view. We'll go back in and update it in a little bit, but to add it into my workflow, I just have to say, I want a thing. That's a log. I want to proceed with the login view. And then I'm going to proceed with all these other views. And you can see the canvas already updated, the preview already updated, and here is the login view. And when I say login, I move into the profile feature onboarding view. I haven't really hooked up login to do any actual login or validation. It's just calling the proceed. And then from here, I can continue forward and show the profile feature view. Something that probably should be going on is this onboarding view. Shouldn't show up again. You don't want your onboarding screen to constantly be showing up to your users. It's like kind of a one and done. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into feature onboarding view and implement should load. This is a function that already has a default in the flow representable. And it just tells you, should I be in the workflow? And you have some sort of logic to dictate that. That logic's going to live on this onboarding view model, which has its own should load. And I will drill into there to show you what it is. It basically just checks, has the onboarding to profile feature view not been seen? And this is marked as seen when you've hit the primary button down here to continue. And it's loading it from app storage. So it's in our user defaults. Have you seen this screen? And then if you have, then you should load or you should not load. If you have seen it, don't load. So now that I've added this should load here, we can go ahead and resume back over here. I've already pressed that button, right? We've already seen the view. So I should be able to hit this preview. There we go. Go to login, and you see I went from login view right to feature view. I have a secret button here. If you click the WWT logo like 5 times, it'll reset your app storage. So now I will stop the preview and run it again. And this time, when we go from login, it'll actually go to the feature onboarding view because it should load. And then we continue forward. Now we're at the account information view. Our login view doesn't have a way to sign up. So let's go ahead and do that. And that'll give us a chance to launch a new workflow. So I'm going to jump into login view. Here you can see login view. Again, just the flow representable. It doesn't take any kind of data in. So it's just define a workflow pointer and we're good to go. What we did in the video was make a little divider line here. So I'm just going to go ahead, quickly type that out. Basically had a horizontal stack with a rectangle in it that had a foreground color that was like a divider, and it had a frame that was 1 pixel high. And then we had a word saying, not test. We had a word saying or, and then like another divider line. And then we put some horizontal padding to get it off the walls. And then we added a pre-stylized button called secondary button that we've created. and that just says sign up. And its action is to, what we're going to want to do is show a sheet. And so that's going to be, we already have a state variable called show sign up. So we'll just go ahead and toggle that to true. And then what we want is for a sheet to show up. So we'll just add a sheet is presented tied to show sign up. And then that sheet should show a workflow launcher, which is going to launch based on the same thing. Basically, our workflow should be active when the sheet is up. And when the sheet is down, we should turn off our workflow. And then I already have a sign up screen, so let's just go ahead and throw that up. And then people should sort of accept some terms of service. So terms and conditions screen right here. And then we want this, if it has another screen following it, we'll want that presentation type to be a navigation link. We want these to be like navigation links between the two. So this one here, the login screen should do a navigation link to terms and conditions. And then if we ever add another screen after terms and conditions, should have a navigation link there. And SwiftUI navigation links only work if you're in an embedded inside of a navigation view. So let's just go ahead and embed ourselves in a navigation view here. And then when this workflow completes, when it finishes, it's going to pass us some arguments, but I don't really care about those for this demo. So I'm just going to ignore those arguments being passed forward to me. But what I do want to do is dismiss the sheet, stop the workflow. And then if I'm in a workflow, I should just continue forward. We'll say that sign up also signs you in. You just entered your username and password. You don't need to enter it again. So, okay. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and sign up. Here's the sign up screen. I don't have any validation set up on that. That takes us to this terms and conditions screen. This looks pretty bad. It's because we're in a preview. We'll run through this one more time to show it in app. This white text here is saying decline. And if you decline it, it abandons the workflow. And then also cool, because we tied it to the same state variable, I can go to here and I can just swipe that modal right away. And when I hit sign up, bam, right back at the start. And then I can also accept and it goes away. Nothing else happened. And if you look down here in the preview, all I did was create the login view. I didn't actually launch it in a workflow. So there's nothing to proceed to. So let me close this, go back to the content view. Over here, login view is part of a workflow. So what we expect it to happen is after you do sign up, login view, because we've already looked at the onboarding view, should jump straight to the feature view, right? And so let's watch that happen. Here's a quick proof that when I hit the decline, we aren't just like finishing, it abandons the workflow. But if I did hit accept, there's the account information screen. And then I can just easily reset my state, my app state. And this time I'm going to hit login instead of sign up. But this is going to just take me forward to the onboarding view because that's what should be next in my workflow. And then we got 3 features here. So to add login gating to maybe this QR scanning, all I got to do is say, then proceed, login view.self. And now when I go to the QR screen, I'm on the QR tab now, I have a login. And when I say login, it takes me to the QR scanning feature. Our login screen's not smart enough. So when I go over here, it's going to say, I'm not logged in. We could fix that, but that's outside of my current demo because I'm running out of time. But if y'all want to dig into that, we can definitely do that. But first, let me finish out my demo, which is I need to start from current slide. So we achieved that. So what's next? We're going to be doing data-driven workflows is what we're currently working on. So having the server dictate, here are the order of screens that I want you to launch, and then you can launch those screens. And because you've seen how all of this kind of comes together, you can just start like dropping screens when they're built correctly. I say built correctly because we do have validations that if a screen is flow representable is passing forward data, the next screen needs to be able to handle that or appropriately. And then we will, if it can't, we will let you know at compile time or in SwiftUI at runtime as soon as the workflow has been created that it doesn't work. Like we'll immediately crash and give you an error saying like you have a malformed workflow. With data-driven workflows, we'll obviously not kill your app because that's coming from a server. We'll do something a little bit more intelligent. After that, we're going to be putting in a great testing experience for consumers of SwiftCurrent. When you pull in our library, we want you to be able to still test all your stuff and not get in the way of that. And then there's one leftover thing for SwiftUI, which is persistence customizations. We were unable to get that into SwiftUI. In UIKit, we do have it. So that essentially means you have screen 1, 2, and 3. And say screen 2 should be removed after proceeding. So then the way that ends up being experienced by the user is I'm on screen 1, then I'm on screen 2, then I'm on screen 3. And when I back up from screen 3, I go to screen 1. And so we have that capability in UIKit. We were unable to get it into SwiftUI so far. There's an issue out there. If you guys want to take a look, maybe you could take a crack at it and solve it. Here's our milestones here on the GitHub page. So that's what we're focusing on next. And like I said, we're open to contribute to contributors. So feel free to take a look at our issues and PRs and get involved. You will have to sign a CLA to contribute, but we've made that as pretty painless as we can. It'll basically, a bot will show up, tell you a link to go to, and then when you go to that link, you can just sign the CLA. All right. And then with that, here is the URL to our GitHub page, www.t/SwiftCurrent. Here's a QR code if you wanted to whip out the phone and scan that. I will drop the URL. Well, the URL is already in the meetup, and I don't have a chat here to drop it in. So you can also follow it from there. Part of our success of this project is based on how many stars we get. So I would appreciate it if you went out and started the project, told a friend if you really like it, ask them to go check it out. We're trying to make sure this gets popular enough so that we can continue to develop it. I'm getting paid to just work on this project, and I would like to continue to do that. And I can't if we can't show that we're not making an impact in the community. So with that, stars, please. Questions and answers. Anything you want to see, I'm happy to dig into. We can dig into the code, or even if it's just the project itself, DevOps or anything, I'm happy to dive in and talk about anything.
The examples you have and you've shown tonight, they're all like very linear. You go here, you go there, you go there. I'm guessing if you wanted to diverge that path, it's just conditional logic inside of that block after that then proceed flow, right? You could just throw if, whatever, you could diverge from there, or is it restricted to one pathway? So
your workflows are linear in that, like, I have this screen going to this screen, going to this screen as I'm proceeding. But like we did earlier, we had this login view fork and say, if I'm signing up, I want to launch another workflow. We just happen to say that this, on the completion of the sign up flow, we should proceed. I could also here say, is it abandon, or I have to say workflow. I call my workflow and I say I want to abandon. Like I've branched off, I did something completely different. And I know that whatever I was doing shouldn't happen anymore because the environment's broken now. And that kind of comes down to like, who's responsible to know what should be going on.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see a nested workflow right there too. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Thank you.
You have like separate tabs with their own workflows, with their own like stacks. That's pretty cool. It's something you don't get very easy in Android for sure.
Yeah, and this if I jump into I think it's the terms and conditions. This is a pass-through flow representable. And what that means is I'm not going to disrupt your data. Like I don't need any data to come into me, but I will pass it forward. But just slot me somewhere. Login probably should be a pass-through. But what this enables you to do is say like, hey, terms and conditions, you should be here. And sign up, you should be here. And now when you hit the sign up button, it's still loading. When you hit the sign up button, now you start with the terms and conditions and you say, I don't agree. Okay, I'm not even going to bother asking for a password because you already disagree. But if I do, hey, here's that next screen. And there is one cool thing that I didn't really talk about. We only do it in one spot right now. It's at the start, the SwiftUI example. We also have this ability to apply modifiers. And so you can, part of composable views and SwiftUI is like, hey, I just want to take this view and just start like messing with it and adding like modifiers or padding or anything. And you can do that here. Because this is for this one is a content view. It is actually strongly typed as a content view. So if you have custom modifiers that can only be applied to a content view, you can do that. And then that's how we did the transitional slide, because what we're doing here is replacing this view with this view. And so we want those to slide over.
So like in that block right there on line 26, could you do a conditional statement right there and say, if whatever the app state is one thing, you could go to a different view, or does it always have to be, I guess nothing stops you from passing in a different view conditionally, right? In that parameter?
Yeah. So I think for what you're looking for, what you could potentially do is something like, we'll do another then proceed with a terms and conditions here. And then content view would need a should load that says like the app state is this way. And then terms and conditions would have the alternate state of saying like, no, but if the state is this way, I should load. And then what would happen is you would have your one more screen that's, I don't know, we'll just do another terms and conditions because they're pass-throughs. Sure. You can drop them anywhere. So pretend this is a different terms and conditions and it has a different, it always loads. So then you would go from SwiftCurrent onboarding to what's my current state? It's not the one that's appropriate for content view. And the inverse of that is true. So I should be showing terms and conditions. And then from there, you'll move on to the last screen. So that's kind of a way you can make not a non-linear, it's still linear because you still end up at the same endpoint, but you can kind of diverge a little bit and then recollapse. And we have tests around that's like, what if every single one of these should not load? Like my entire workflow has no point because my model or like the user already has done all of this and I don't need to show them any of that. Well, then, yeah, this would launch and it would immediately get into the on finish because like, hey, nothing should have loaded. We're done. Like, here's the completion. What do you want to do?
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of all the complicated scenarios that I've seen in terms of the workflow and how that would look. I imagine this kind of could explode in terms of, I guess, not super complex, but as an app matures, you have, dozens of different ways you can go through the workflow.
This spawned out of a necessity. The workflow, the first workflow was like 7 screens long, and like the first 5 were optional. It's like only show this screen if the user's in this state. And then, but that may mean the next screen would show up or the next screen would show up. It was never like completely linear. Like, oh, you might go here and then the next screen and the next screen and the next screen, or you might go here and then skip a screen and then go to here and then go to the next screen. And it was just, and this was done in UIKit and we were doing storyboards. So they had like all these segues driving to all of these screens. And so then it became just this. And then because we had the same model, we were just basically modifying a common model between each one, adding a little bit of data to it. It was as simple as just like, you know what, that's the order it should be in now. Oh wait, no, now it should be this order. Now it's this order. And it was really that simple. There was one day that we had iOS and Android working on the same app, different platforms, right? And it was like, oh, we want to do this swap. And Android was like, no. And we were like, we're done. We already did it. I just went, committed, we're done. So it's pretty awesome. All right. I got another 2 minutes, 50 seconds.
I have maybe not the best internet connection, but and you may have already covered this, but what is it possible to link directly into the middle of a workflow and keep your backstack, if that makes sense? So like maybe a deep link.
So I can't remember if we already have this in SwiftUI, but we do have it in a way on UIKit. The way we have it implemented right now is not the best way. We would like to implement it a better way in the future, but right now would be around that should load, saying like, does this view need to be present? So maybe you're thinking about like a notification comes in and you click it and it's like, the user already has entered in all of this details because of the notification. And it will skip those screens. Should load false, should load false, should load false. But the persistent says, persist me when skipped. And so then it's being added to the backstack as you go through. But you can't just say, I want to be on this screen unless it's part of that should load. You would have to write it in to say like, if the model's this, or if the data I'm receiving is something like this, or the state is this, I should not load. But then having a persistence saying, this should be persist when skipped so that it's always there when I go back. We have that ability in UIKit. I can't remember if we have that in SwiftUI. Did that answer your question, David?
Must be bad internet.
Yeah.
Wherever he's at.
I'm going to assume yes. I hope that answers it. Right. And just one more thing I can do with my last minute is just show you the GitHub page here. So yeah, this video right here kind of basically goes through what I just demonstrated. Here's more about like why you should use us or some of our philosophies. Here's some quick start guides. It's pretty simple to get up and running. This app here is like kind of a minimalistic, just get you in and get you going in SwiftUI. Here's a link to all our example apps. Like I said, we have SwiftUI and UIKit, and then we got lots of documentation, some getting started to help you walk through getting onboarded. And then we also have this page, this GitHub Pages, which is full of lots of information. So check us out. And with that, I'm out of time.
Some high quality documentation.